Any reps for crew? Come on, rep Columbus. Yeah, all right. Excellent. And so that was, and so when did you get into the position in the Vikings then?
Yeah, so first of all, ticket sales was my entry point. I'm obviously not in ticket sales anymore, but the first 7 years of my career was on the sales side, in some nature, whether it was tickets or partnerships or whatever. So Columbus grew to Pittsburgh Pirates to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I spent 9 months at International Speedway Corporation before landing with the Vikings in 2004. So just completed my 18th season with the Vikings, heading into 19. So
You found a home.
yes, I did.
Is that typical for people in your position to change as many times as they did? Because I know many people might think job hopping is one of those things that's not really looked upon very favorably in the world outside of sports.
I think, and obviously I interview a lot of people for jobs and so forth, and it is one of the things that I look at is what that path is. But if you have a good story around it, there's a reason why you're taking that next move. And if it's a good reason, it doesn't matter if it's 9 months later or 3 years later, that's what you need. Is what's the reason that you're making the move? Is it to go to a sport that you're more passionate about? Is it for a better job? Is it something that's maybe personal to you, location, the country, whatever? Those are all reasons to make the move. But yeah, early on, when you're younger, you want to have the flexibility to hop around a little bit to just speed your path.
That's a writer downer for some of you who are worried about that kind of conversation. So, Jim, on your side, where did you go to school and how did that start for you?
So I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, originally. Went to Davenport University, a small D3 school in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Studied sports management there. Coming out of college, I actually did not get directly into sports. I went and did logistics for a while, and then I sold organic food across the Midwest. Not necessarily my passion by any means, but
I learned a lot.
But I learned a ton, about not just focusing on what you're selling, but who you're selling to. And I think that's kind of what shaped, my ticket sales career at one point. So did that for a while and realized I wasn't really feeling fulfilled. I had studied sports management. I wanted to try it. I was making good money, but I wanted to get into sports. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here in the same boat. But so I went back to my professor at Davenport and said, hey, I need an internship. What can you do for me? Get me connected somewhere. And so took a pretty substantial pay cut from a good amount of money to $0 to go intern with the Detroit Pistons in the marketing department.
Now you get the choice. You get to rep your team when you hear it. So thank you, sir.
So I did that for about 6 months, and then got a call from the Tampa Bay Storm, a Tampa Bay Lightning arena football affiliate down in Tampa, Florida, to go start selling tickets down there. So didn't know a soul down there, didn't know anybody down there, and again took an opportunity to get my foot in the door, I think that's our topic, to go down to Tampa and start in sales. So did inside sales there, moved over to the Lightning side, and spent about 8 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning team. At a variety of different positions, premium sales, managing a corporate sales team, and then came up here about 4 seasons ago and been with the Colts ever since.
That Storm was a very popular team back then. Oh, yeah, they were really well.
Well, when I came in, they had just got off being good, and they were terrible for the 2 years I was there. So
makes it more challenging, the sales department.
It was fun, that's for sure.
That's great. But you also made some moves as well, different parts of the country, different things, and that was not holding you back from getting what you wanted.
No, I think that's one of the big things I tell people, because a lot of times when I've got people come through our inside sales team or looking for that next step, well, I want to stay in the NFL. Well, I want to stay in Indiana. You can't pigeonhole yourself to that sometimes. Sometimes it's got to be about opportunity. And, odds of me staying with the Colts for my entire career are very slim. And that could be going to the NHL, MLS, MLB, whatever it is. It's about opportunities. And to your point earlier, you never know what kind of opportunity or why you're going to take that opportunity. Maybe it's family, maybe it's, wanting to try a different, industry within sports or different department within sports. We bring a lot of people into our inside sales program that don't end up in ticket sales, similar to Bryan here. Like we it's not necessarily always going to be your path. You don't have to stay in ticket sales, but again, getting in and discovering what that is, we identify those intangibles. If you're a hard worker, if you're coachable, if you're competitive, we'll find you a role with doing what you want to do. So it's all about opportunities, and you can't pigeonhole yourself to a location or a sport sometimes to get those opportunities. So that's something I preach daily towards that.
And sometimes it's not just major leagues, it could be minor league work and other things. When you are both looking for new hires, we'll start with Bryan first. What are you looking for in a hire? And does a minor league sport on a resume necessarily a negative? Is that for you?
No, the sport, I mean, really, it's not even sports anymore. It's so I transitioned, when I came to Minnesota, I transitioned from ticket sales to the marketing side. I was a communications major at school, so that was more kind of my sweet spot. And that was right about the time that the content world really took off. Video content on websites and social media platforms started to grow. And we saw that opportunity to tell that story, from the team perspective. So as it's advanced to where we are today, we're on our devices for 10, 11 hours a day on average. And video is still a primary content push there, but we're in competition with everything that's out there. Like we're in competition with ESPN, we're in competition with Sally on TikTok, all that stuff. So we have to look at, where our consumers are wanting to have our message and deliver it to them there. So when I'm looking at resumes, I'm looking at what's the storytelling capacity that you have, what's that content background, and it really doesn't need to be, on the sports side. So there is not a negative, minor league sports, there's not a negative to working at Target. It's what capacity can you tell a story, what's the history there for you, and how can you, bring something new to our business.
I think people will be surprised to know how large your staff is. Could you give us a view as to kind of who you have on the staff and what they do?
So each team is, structured differently. You'll find all kinds of different structures out there. The way that we structure it is we pull anything that's fan-facing. So basically anything that a fan is going to engage with from a content perspective falls under the Vikings Entertainment Network umbrella at our team. There's probably 7 or 8 teams in the NFL that are structured in a similar way. So that'd be anything digital media, social media, television, radio, and then we also have in-stadium entertainment. So everything that you see in the field and the stadium comes to that same team. And the thought behind that is just to have, you're not dropping the ball, you're not missing things are falling through gaps or anything like that. You know what the job is and what each person's responsibility is to get that done. So we're able to cross promote on platforms and so forth to get that message out there, and it really makes it work for us. So across those teams, so this would be on the production side, a producer, an editor, somebody on the audio side. We've got social media folks that are focused on publishing and distribution. We've got writers, folks that are like doing the event presentation piece. And then we have internal, we call them associates. So we revamped our internship program to an associate program just this past year with the first year. It's pretty good. It's a 1-year type deal. But overall, full-time focus on my team is 30. Okay. And we started back, I told you, in 2004, so we started this in 2007. We're about 6 of us. So we went from 6 in 2007 to 30 in 2022, not including associates.
Wow. Jim, how many are on your staff, and what are you looking for in a hire when you do what you do? Can you kind of describe what your staff looks like?
Yeah, in terms of my staff specifically, we have 33 total in our ticketing group, and that's relatively small compared to some other leagues, things like that. We've grown, similar to Bryan, significantly since I came on board. Because there was a need for a more outbound approach and more service mentality on our ticketing department that didn't exist 4 years ago. So we've added an entire service department that manages all of our season ticket member accounts. Every single season ticket member has a rep that they can reach out to directly, and they're responsible for renewing them every year as well. We've got a new sales team who reaches out directly to single game buyers or people in the area or businesses and tries to sell them season tickets for next year. We've got a group sales team that reaches out to different companies or schools or churches and organizes 10+ group outings for some of our more distressed games throughout the season. And then we've got a suites team who sells all our premium products. We've grown by about 25 or 26 in the last 4 years. And we're consistently looking at new areas and opportunities to add different positions. One being specifically on the analytics side, we're currently looking for a ticket analyst to live solely in our department. That's something that didn't exist in the ticketing world 5-10 years ago because it's become so analytically focused in terms of how we price, how we manage inventory, all our different benefits and tracking those. So now in terms of finding good quality talent, when we look into our entry-level sales programs, Similar to Bryan, I'm not looking at sports experience. If you're a recent college graduate or somebody new that's trying to get into the sales force, I might look at, hey, do you have restaurant experience that you did during college? Because it shows you can multitask. It shows you can work with people. Have you been part of any clubs, part of any fraternities? Because it shows you can organize and you have those social skills and things like that. So any of those extracurricular activities that you took on while getting a degree, that's massive for me. Beyond that, I mean, when we hire senior level sales associates, we don't just look at sports experience. We just hired 2 individuals from Minnesota from the tech world that just were in a rut, was sick of working from home, wanted that kind of in-office mentality, that energy, and love sports. So we'll look at any and all facets. It's similar to Bryan again. What's your story? What experience do you have? How do you present yourself? And it doesn't necessarily have to be 2-3 years of sports selling experience specifically.
Very cool. So both of you in sports in the NFL, it's kind of for those who are in the sports world, if you've been in it for a while, it's kind of the holy grail in some ways. It's not all gravy, obviously, because there are distressed games in the NFL, just like there's distressed games in other sports. But you get to do some fairly cool things. Bryan, how many Super Bowls have you been to?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to actually work as a production consultant on post-game I didn't work, this is the first one I haven't worked since 2010. So total Super Bowls that I've worked, 11 total Super Bowls that I've been to, including those 14, I guess. Wow.
Jim, have you been?
0. And I left the Lightning right before they won 2 in a row, so.
And the Vikings haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1978, so.
Yeah, they're both chasing rings here for sure. And it's not always chasing the ring. Sometimes the best opportunities are within teams that aren't necessarily on top of their game. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, that's the biggest thing I tell people in ticket sales. Like, my job is not as existent if we're sold out going to Super Bowls. When I go to a new team, or if you're a sales rep going to a new team, you don't want to go to the New England Patriots or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or whatever team is sold out and winning the Super Bowls, because frankly, I have nothing to sell. And in a sales role, you go places to make money selling tickets. So usually you try to find those teams that maybe are on the up and up, have some upper potential, and have inventory to sell. Because I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to service and those things, but for most of my career and probably all my career, I won't be working for a championship back-to-back team just because the needs kind of go out the door.
And the odds are pretty slim to be able to find that. There's a whole lot more jobs at the Colts and Vikings than there are at perhaps 1 or 2 of the very top teams. Would you agree with that, when you say, Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to add, where we're at right now, I have never seen job changes like what we're going through right now. We've all heard about the Great Resignation, but just seeing the landscape of sports and how teams and leagues are rethinking the business and what are the prime focuses and so forth. You mentioned analytics a moment ago. From a content perspective, early on, it was about art. Like, what cool piece could you put out there that your folks would see? If you put it out there, they were going to watch it. Now it's so competitive. You really have to play at the intersection of art and science. And that's where the analytics piece comes in. We can't do anything right now without knowing, like, okay, this is what we're shooting for. This is the target. This is the impact that we're trying to reach. So my point is when you're talking about jobs right now, everything is being rethought, and that's not limited to the NFL. It's of course industry as a whole, but opportunity is really exciting. To be honest with you.
We'll take a moment and just give you a minute to get in line if you'd like to ask questions from the content and production side here from Bryan, and then from the ticket sales and service side from Jim. But are there changes happening in the ticket world?
Definitely. I mean, as I mentioned, analytics has become a massive thing for us, and we've brought 2-3 additional heads just in the last year to our analytics team to focus on trends and ticketing and all that. And on that side, the big thing is dynamic pricing and demand and looking at games and being able to make price changes and inventory changes on a whim because of the demand of a game. So if we get to December next year and we're in a playoff hunt, all those games certainly also become more attractive. So we price up. One of the big things we've been focusing on a lot more in our world is understanding our customers. We just did focus groups last week down the street where we literally brought in different season ticket members, single game buyers, former season ticket members, and we just interviewed them for a couple hours and just learned, hey, how did you become a Colts fan? why did you have tickets? Why don't you have tickets anymore? And what would you change? And we've gotten so much more analytical in how we can track that stuff to the point where we're gathering buyer profiles on every single season ticket member in our building now. Favorite player, what school they go to, what's their birthday, and we customize our marketing messaging based on that. So if your favorite player is T.Y. Hilton, your emails from us are going to have T.Y. Hilton on them. And we track all that and message that. On the ticketing side in general and sales, I mean, we've just gotten more robust on the service side all around. You're seeing more and more diversification and premium seating. So trying to add more smaller, customized suite packages. Unfortunately, our building is majority of just 18, 20-person suites. Companies don't want that anymore. They want 4, 6, 8 people suites that they don't have any issues with filling, that they can customize and really create an experience that is special to them. So we're always looking at adding new premium options as well, which is an ever-changing landscape in sports ticketing, that's for sure.
Well, I see a whole bunch of questions, so I don't want to necessarily take time away from those. If you're in line right now, where we're trying to get you, please no one else come in line at this point, so we try to do as many as we can, but we'll start right here with your question. Go ahead.
All right, for the panel, my name is Gary. I'm from Missouri Baptist University professor. We brought a big group in. And my question is, Bill, we talked about this yesterday. There's been an explosion now with indoor football leagues, 2 of them popping up this year. And we also have groups like the Battlehawks. What advice would you have then for students? They're not ready for an internship yet, but maybe the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. What would you tell them to do as far as all these new positions that are opening up?
I mean, specifically for me, I know something I've always told people is just reach out to people on LinkedIn. I mean, I get messages all the time. I try to get to them in a timely manner, but I will talk to anyone if the time is right. So build your network. You know, I can tell you, I get younger and younger individuals that reach out wanting to get into sports every single year. You know, freshmen, seniors in high school that want to learn about the sports industry. And, you know, I can't guarantee I can give everyone a call, but reaching out to those kind of individuals that are with those organizations and saying, hey, can I get 15 minutes just to pick your brain? I'm not looking for a job, I'm not looking for anything. I just want to know more about what you do. And you got to really broaden your network by doing that. Coming to things like this, I always preach it. We do 2 or 3 of these types of events just with the Colts. We've got a career fair going down the street, or I think it's next door, at the Indians ballpark right now with my manager of inside sales. There's 50 students there. We're always doing those kinds of things. Sign up for as many as you possibly can, because when it comes time to post that next inside sales role, I will get 2,000 applicants. I will get 2,000 resumes, and it's very hard to decipher who is who and who's the best. I will call every single referral. I will call every single person I've met, but those resumes, the chances of you just applying and getting a job is very slim. So start building that network as a freshman in college, and by the time you graduate, you can have a lot of people to talk to.
You've done all your students a solid by bringing them here to start that. Ryan, would you add anything to that?
I was just saying exactly what he said. However, LinkedIn, you know, I want to double on that one a second. There's a real opportunity there. Obviously, we know what it is, but like how you show up and your brand on LinkedIn, what you're liking, what you're posting, like that, like treat that as very, very important. It's the first thing that I go and look at outside the resume itself. So that's a really good opportunity. And then the second thing you talked about, the arena football leagues, I just want to point out, you know, you hear, like I have people come in, I just want to work for the Minnesota Vikings, or I just want to work in the NFL. Similar to what you said earlier, that opportunity at the Arena Football League, you're going in ground floor, you're going to be gritty, you're going to learn so much about the business as a whole. I mean, without seeing what the job roles are, entry point into sports, if you're going to work in ticket sales or marketing for the Columbus Crew or the Indianapolis Colts or whatever it may be, or you get a chance to work across departments at more of a startup or a build, go with that one. Because you're not worried about what your job is now or even 3 years from now. You're worried about what your career is going to be in 15 years and what's going to lay that groundwork for you. So, and most people will look at it as, ooh, I got to work for the more well-known team or whatever, and that would be a mistake.
Thank you, John.
Let's just start over here and we'll make sure that we get everyone. So this side, go ahead.
I have a question for Bryan first. Phil Heathner told me to say hi.
You must be friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I also have a question for Jim. But the Vikings, I went to St. Olaf College. I know a lot of Vikings fans. They're very loyal. The Vikings could lose every single game, and they'd still pack the house. So you've worked in ticketing, and you've worked in production. So who are you trying to target if there is unconditional love for the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jim, you can probably expand on this too. What we're seeing is the aging of our traditional fan base. So we're having to really strategize how to connect with that next generation of fans. That really is the key. It's the number one thing that we're looking at right now, really across the business as a whole. So at the same time, you can't dismiss that great core fan base that you have. So you have to kind of create, do it from a maintenance perspective here and still put everything out there, all the benefits, and keep them satisfied and engaged. At the same time, you've got to try some things on this end to pull new people into the funnel and continue to make it in a situation where we do have sold out games, even if we're 3-13 or whatever it may be.
There's so many opportunities out there. We're making things happen.
I will expound on that just a little bit and totally agree. I think it's the number one priority for most teams is identifying those next Colts season ticket members. Our average season ticket member is 55 years old right now. At some point, they're not going to be able to have season tickets anymore. So it's tough. It's not just sending out marketing messages. You can't market tickets to a 10-year-old. So you got to find ways to build that kind of foundation. When we did these focus groups last week, the number one reason why people became Colts fans is because, well, my uncle took me to a game, or my dad used to have tickets. You got to find those ways to get them engaged, and keep that in the family as much as possible. And it's tough, it's not, there's no right or wrong answer to it. We got to try to do a lot of different stuff. We're working with Marvel right now to do some big Marvel promotions next year. It's not something we need to do to sell tickets. It's something we need to do to build fans and build those younger fans. So you see the NFL working with Nickelodeon, doing a lot of those type things. That's to build that younger fan base because our fan base is aging. They really are.
Great question, Fran. Thank you for that. Let's go over to the other side.
Alex Ujawa. Fun fact, I reached out to Jim on LinkedIn. I think when I was a senior in high school, along with a little story there, he did respond. And we did hop on a call, so he's a man who practices what he preaches. He's a good guy. So.
How you doing, Alex?
Good. Question.
You're already in sports, go ahead here.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually with the Cavaliers right now in sales, but always good to network and see what else is out there. So, wanted to connect and talk about, mentioning how to connect with maybe the younger generation with sales. I know typically the inside sales role is bang out 100 calls and hustle, but curious how you guys have maybe evolved, whether it's texting, video messaging, other creative ways to get in front of people, maybe how that approach has evolved.
Yeah, texting has been a massive thing for us. I mean, when I started in sales, it was just phone calls and a checkbox sheet. You just check every phone call you made. And we've gotten so sophisticated in our CRM systems and tracking calls and all that. We work with a company called ZipWhip to do one-to-one texting, where our season ticket reps can reach out directly to their season ticket members via text. We can reach out to our prospects via text. We also market via text. So we can, send a season ticket information blast out to anyone that's came out to a game last year. And we're seeing more and more engagement there. One of the big things we do with that is every single person that's a buyer or a season ticket member, we track, how do you want to be communicated with? Is that via text? Is that email? Is that call? Some people just want to be emailed. Some people just want to be texted. We track that as much as possible and communicate with them on that level. You mentioned video calls as well. We don't do anything necessarily with that, but there are some companies like One Mob that you can do direct one-to-one video, from the stadium in front of the green screen and pitch people, those kinds of things. We're looking into those technologies as well, but there's certainly a lot more different ways to get in front of people now.
How are they doing it in the Vikings? Are you texting a lot? Are there other technologies you're using?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, as he said. We have, you've probably done something similar, but of our known fans, we have 6 fan personas. So we will craft messaging based on the persona. And we're helping, if I was a Colt, I would be helping Jim with what he's trying to do, providing content that's effective and is going to help reach and pull people in. We want to get them to engage. So yeah, we do. I mean, it's a lot of email, it's a lot of text. Try everything we can to get in there.
Just a quick note on Alex. This guy was hounding me when he first was getting in the industry, and he has risen up so much in this industry by doing just that. I've seen him at inside sales workshops. I've seen them at these types of events. And the fact that you're still coming to these and doing this, and it's a huge testament to what you've been able to do thus far, man. So that is exactly what I'm talking about. Reach out to people when, it doesn't matter if you're in high school or in college, start to build that network. So props to you, Alex.
Way to go, Alex. Give it up for Alex right now. I think he deserves it. You're in the middle.
My name is Ben from Austin, Texas. I appreciate you guys coming out today. One of the questions that I had was more specifically for Bryan, but Jim, you can touch base as well on this question, with regards to NFTs, especially with the younger fan base and things like that. We're talking about that topic a little bit here. I'm just curious what you think football and the role with NFTs will play in the future. I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious about what you think about that.
Yeah, let's see. I have to be careful how I answer this. So, when NFTs came out, obviously it just hit like crazy. We're opportunistic. We look at ways to get involved with that. We have an unbelievable creative team that is just right down the hall that we can kind of utilize and so forth. And you look at the experiential piece that can be connected to it. There's so many opportunities, but it's also this wild, wild west right now. So the philosophy of the NFL is to try to figure out what's going to be best to scale across all 32. So as teams, there were a handful, we were one of them, started to go down the path, everything was out, but started to go down the path. The league kind of pulled the reins back a little bit and said, hey, we need to kind of govern this. So it's really running through the league right now. The short-term downside is that we're just, handcuffed. So like the creative ideas that we have, we can't really do anything with that. The long-term benefit is that it will become more stable. We'll be able to see what those real options are that's going to be scalable, and then we'll be able to kind of go forward. So it's frustrating on one side of things, but the creative in me, it's frustrating, but kind of the business piece of it, it makes a lot of sense to do it that way. So unfortunately, I don't have a really good in-depth answer. Happy to talk to you afterwards if you want to dig in a little bit.
Great, thanks for your question.
Oh, Jim, did you want to chime in on that?
No, we're trying a lot of stuff. I'm in the same role. I don't quite know it yet. So
I think there's a lot to be said at this point for later. Let's go ahead and go back here, if you wouldn't mind. Go ahead.
How you doing? My name is Demetrius Patterson from Los Angeles, and I work for the Los Angeles Rams part-time.
Welcome.
And they've already asked me to come back next season. So my question to you is, what advice can you give to someone who's looking to make that transition from a part-time role to a full-time role?
what's the role?
Right now I'm in 50-50.
Okay.
Which we've done a great job. We actually broke the Super Bowl record about 3 times. And this past Super Bowl we sold over, we actually made $590,800.
So the 50-50 giveaway was $590,000.
Yeah, $590,000.
They didn't show that on TV.
What's the role you're looking to break into in full-time setting?
Anything in ticket sales.
Okay. I would say, use that experience. I can tell you, we talk to every single 50-50 seller in our stadium about our inside sales program, because, your boots on the ground, you're selling, and you're selling on game days. So you're selling to a drunk group of fans that, frankly, you can take advantage of and get some money from. But it's all about personability, and I think as you transition from a part-time to a full-time position, you've got to be the hardest worker, that's what I always tell interns is you're amongst 50 to 100 different interns that are in our organization that we cycle through every single year. You have to outwork every single person around you if you want that next role. So the fact that you're doing that and you're looking to transition, use the 50-50 experience for sure. But also, just be yourself, be authentic, and you should be good.
And words of wisdom there, Bryan. Be bad.
I just say, again, he hit the nail on the head, but just every interaction is an opportunity. Listen, learn, and aggregate that stuff to make yourself, a valuable weapon that should be considered. The folks who are on the front lines they're the most valuable. They're interacting with the customer. They have insight that you can tap into that it's harder to get anywhere else. So that's a real opportunity.
Now, I would say you've already been hired back once, so you've proven something to someone. I would certainly use that as your forte. Congratulations and good luck with that. Let's go to the middle.
Hi, my name is Meg Coulter, and I'm with the Missouri Baptist University University here. I am currently team photography director for a new arena team called the St. Charles Bandits in St. Louis. And I was wondering if you had any advice for those who are in those kind of ground level entry positions at those kind of startups to getting their foot in the door to a little bit bigger teams.
And is your career focus photography?
I enjoy photography, it's my main hobby, but I also enjoy like the social media marketing side of things.
So again, not knowing what your profile is and that sort of thing. I mean, you're a content creator. If you're taking photos, that's not everybody's a content creator. We all think we're content creators, but not everybody is. So you've got a skill. You obviously can harness that skill. I would network, make yourself known, share your photos, like build your brand and create your brand that you have on your platforms, and then kind of dual purpose that with this arena league team, for example, and continue just to reach out, hit the pavement and market yourself. And your talents is what's going to really like bring you to the forefront. Similar to kind of what we were talking about earlier, it doesn't really matter where you're working. You've got a craft. And if you're good at it, you're going to break through. People will notice. Don't sit back and wait on offense.
Anything to add, Jim?
I mean, it's something where, like, to Bryan's point, you've got, a log of what you're building and people can see it. I can look at people's ticket sales numbers on a resume and, they could be right, they could be wrong, they could say they're first place, but they're actually last place. You have stuff that you can actually share with people, share it. And it's tough because there's very few positions, in these types of roles with some of the bigger teams, but if you're good at your job and you can share it with people and you build your network, you'll get opportunities.
Great. I want to take 3 more questions. The people that are on the microphones right now will be the only ones that we'll be able to take in respect to things, but they will be here for a little bit to be able to chat afterwards, I think, right? Either of you? Okay, to be able to talk afterwards. So let's start here with our first of the 3.
Yes, I here with Sports Management Worldwide. I also had a question on NFTs, but that's been covered. So I'm going to go to something that Bryan, you brought up in regards to personas, and then also Jim had kind of talked about the fact that everyone's looking for a younger and younger audience to kind of build up. The question is kind of relating to psychology and psychologists on staff. Is that something that NFL teams actually look at as it relates to building personas for who you're marketing to, or how to connect with a younger audience with, if the average age of the staff member is, say, 28 and you're trying to get a 16-year-old, do you look at outside help, or is that an attractive quality in a new hire? Is that kind of psychological background?
That's a good question. We do not, to my knowledge, have anybody in our group that has that type of a background and using it to focus on the customer. We obviously have those relationships on the football side and on the people and culture side for internal purposes, but externally towards fans, we don't. And that's, I bet what you're saying is it makes a ton of sense.
Sure.
And maybe Jim, maybe you
I agree. I mean, I can't see a reason why we shouldn't. We certainly don't. I will say, when we look at, hey, we want to attract more millennials or more Generation Z or whatever it is, we put together groups within the organization, and they could be from any department. They could be in CR, they could be from, production, wherever they're from. And we try to get a variety of different mindsets, that have families, people that are in those kinds of groups that are in their early 20s. And we pull people together, and we'll do those type of internal focus groups to talk through, hey, what's attractive to you? What's attractive to your kids? And I think that helps a little bit, but that's taking it to another level.
Indeed it is. Data analytics is a big deal.
Yeah, so I was going to expand.
Oh, yeah.
On one of our personas, which is Sidekick Sally, that's one of our personas, for example.
Yeah.
She's not like going to the Vikings game because I'm a huge Vikings fan. She's going to the Vikings game because her husband is, or her kid's a fan, or whatever. And she's just along for the ride. So the things that she likes, going to the tailgate, buying a cool piece of apparel or whatever. And so that's not necessarily a psychological profile, but you do build those profiles, and psychology does come into play there. So the data is there, and if you did have someone with that kind of mindset, you could maybe take it to the next level.
Definitely.
So now I have to ask the other profile names.
Oh, man.
Sidekick Sally. Anybody catch that?
Just win, Wade, Ben the Believer.
Wait. Just win Wade. I mean, he's there. What? Just win, baby. Okay.
Ben the Believer.
Ben the
Eternal
Believer.
Optimist. The guy who's going to be there when we're 0-3 to start the season. Pumped Up Patty. He's just super excited about it. Seasoned Sid. He's that aging fan.
Yeah, got the horn thing and the horn brings in the, what do they call it, the shofar, or whatever the thing is that you blow.
Yeah, well, it's the gallon horn.
Gallon, yeah, that, I didn't know what it was called, sorry.
I think I covered it.
Okay, that's good, okay. Excellent, go right ahead, and then one after that, and then we're wrapping up.
My name is Scott Lewis. I'm from Southern California. I know you guys have both alluded to this already, but just in regards to getting your foot in the door and pursuing these opportunities, how comfortable do you think people should feel with pursuing jobs that maybe at face value don't really have a lot of relationship or a lot of carryover to the positions you want to pursue and the goals you're looking to reach in the future?
Specific? Any type of job coming up?
Yeah, so like for me, I'm in law school, so my goal at the end of the day is potentially contract negotiation, salary cap management. So say if I wanted to take a job beginning maybe at like marketing or with ticket sales, for example, how comfortable do you think people like that would be with the idea of potentially moving over to another department?
For sure. I mean, I kind of hit it earlier. Like, we bring in people all the time to our inside sales program that don't end up in ticket sales. And for me, I want to bring in the best quality talent and grow them within, or find them that next role. That's what I tell every single inside salesperson. We bring in 8 people every single year. We only get 2 or 3 openings that happen internally. Everybody else, I'm going to be calling every other team in the industry. And that's what's great about this industry is I know someone with pretty much every team at this point. And if you're busting your ass, I can call another team and get you a job. Whether that's in ticket sales, marketing, legal, whatever it is, we can do that. So there's nothing to be concerned about with getting your foot in the door and building skills, whether it's sales, marketing, whatever it is. You're just adding to your resume. We see it in ticket sales all the time. People will go from a sales role to a service role to a premium role. They're just building their resume as much as possible. And there's no issue with you doing that and using that to kind of hit on what we hit before, build relationships, build your network, and show these individuals that you're a hard worker, so that they're going to go to bat for you for someone else.
But there's a caveat to that. None of these guys want a project on their team. They don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time molding you into something that's not going to benefit their department. And so essentially, you got to really kick butt in the department you're in to prove your mettle for the next step.
Yeah, I mean, you're building that story, and that's an important piece right there. You have to everybody's going to have a choice, right? You're going to know, you're going to feel it, like what you're talking about is very specialized. But earlier in your career, you might need to take a more generalist approach. And what can that experience do, a specific experience, let's say it's ticket sales, what can that do that's going to help you learn about the business that you can then use as, hey, I did this and that helps you in that specialized role as you get down the road. There's an opportunity cost to it, right? You're looking, and if you're kind of sitting there hoping and trying to penetrate and get into this specialized area and you're not getting any gain in other places, like, well, what's the harm in getting this experience while you're still trying to go down that specialized track? Because ultimately, if you're going to be in that business, you need to know about the entire business. And if you ever want to run a team someday, you're not going to get into ticket sales and go right up the ticket sales ladder and then into the COO spot. You need a lot more diverse learnings across the industry to be able to get to that spot.
And you might find that you fall in love with it. I wanted to be in marketing. I had no interest in being ticket sales whatsoever. I wanted to build SWOT analysis and all that stuff for every team in the country. I started in ticket sales because it was a full-time job in sports. I fell in love with it. And you never know where your path might take you, regardless of what your goal and focus is now.
Great question, thank you.
Thank you both.
Our final one.
Brandon Rogers, North Central College, Centerville, Illinois. Just had a general question. You guys kind of alluded to not always maybe having stability or moving from team to team. I was in the military myself, so I traveled a lot, and I know that can take a toll on family and stuff like that. I was wondering how it was possibly moving around, buying houses, or just on your family in general, or like the general contract terms of like longevity of how much time you'll spend in one place.
Thank you for your service.
No problem.
I mean, I don't have a family yet. I'm expecting my first kid here in a few weeks. But yeah, anytime I pick it up. But it's not easy. I'll tell you that. I know I preach like you might have to move up sometimes. It's not easy. And you're working a lot of hours, you're working a lot of weekends. In the NFL, it's a little bit nicer, but in the NHL, I was working 120 events a year. So it's tough, and I can't tell you it's going to be easy. But again, if you spend the time and you're passionate about this industry, we mentioned the great resignation earlier. There's a lot of people leaving sports in general. Like it is happening. Am I confident they're going to want to come back? 100%. But more and more people want to work from home. More and more people want to get paid more. You're not going to get paid as much in ticket sales as you will selling tech or selling medical. It's just non-existent. It doesn't happen. But we work for an industry that is passionate, and we get to deliver experiences for people that love this sport or love the sport we're working for. So it's not easy, and Bryan, you may have some other insights on it, but it's something that, if you get on your level where you're working with your significant other or whoever it is, and making sure that you guys are spending the time, making sure you're going to the right organization as well, usually they take care of you, because not every organization is the right fit. And even if it's the best next step in your role or position, I will tell individuals, you don't want to work with that team. I won't name any teams, but there are teams you don't want to work for. So you got to find that right fit, and usually they'll take care of you.
Yeah, and you get that feeling. You get the feeling of whether it's the right fit or not. I mean, first of all, thank you for your question. That's a really good question, because you asked it and I immediately went into thought. I'm reflecting on my life. So I decided, first of all, there's no business marrying someone or having a kid and coming out of college. I wasn't mature enough to do that, and I knew it. And my goal was to advance my sports career. So I'm going to stay single, and I'm going to move if I need to move. And so that was the first part of my career. And by the way, congratulations on your upcoming. My first child due in June. So I got married 2 years ago. So at age, I'm 47. So I waited a long time to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's you're when you get into that and you start to build a family, it's a partnership. There's compromise. There's give and take. At the same time, my wife is super supportive. If there was an opportunity for me somewhere else, she's from Minnesota. I met her there. I love Minnesota myself. But if there was an amazing opportunity that fit us as a family, like we would make that move. When you're younger, I think you just really have to decide what are your life's priorities at that point in time. What do you really value? What are you trying to get to? And it'll fall into place. You've got a gut feeling and so forth. But I'm a big proponent of being patient. And but when that move is there, make it. That's going to benefit you. If your career goal is what you're striving for, I mean, it's hard to be in this business and pass up on those opportunities when they come around. That's my feeling.
Thank you for your question. And can I please get a warm round of applause for our two guests?